Hey everyone, it's Rob Stanley with the Ecom Wiz podcast. And today my special guest is Stephen Summers. He is the co-founder of Marketplace Superheroes. Now, just to give you a quick brief, Marketplace Superheroes helps Amazon sellers sell globally, which is a big thing because a lot of people are not too aware that you could sell outside the United States or they think it's too difficult. Thanks for being on the show, Stephen. I appreciate it.
You're more than welcome, Rob. I'm really excited about diving in and talking about this because this is something that doesn't get enough airtime. So here we go.
Yeah, I think it's an untapped place that people can make money. So let's dive right in. People are maybe scared or don't understand how to sell globally. Get them started on, kind of what is the first step that they need to do to kind of get going with that.
Absolutely. Yes, no problem. So, first of all, it's important to think is it worth my time selling outside the US? Because everyone knows Amazon.com is a phenomenal market, still is to this day, and it's growing every single year, which is incredible when you consider the amount of revenue that is actually happening over there. But yeah, as you mentioned, there's lots of other markets out there as well. And a lot of people kind of become fixated on certain markets, as I've seen, like Japan, Australia, which are good markets, but the biggest opportunity that I believe right now, and is going to continue to be for the next little while as it kind of catches up with the US, is the European market. And the reason the European market is so interesting is because you're not just selling in like one country, like say Amazon.com. You're selling in multiple countries at the same time. And so for anybody listening, if you're new to selling or you're maybe you haven't started selling, this is still really important to understand kind of like how this works. So just to explain that, Amazon right now, they sell in a number of countries in Europe. So Amazon.co.uk, the UK, Germany.de.fr is France, .es, Spain.it, Italy, and Poland's coming on board, and Netherlands is coming on board pretty soon in full production. It's still very new. But those first five that I talked about are very well established in Europe right now. And the interesting thing about them is that like those populations, when you put them together, Germany's 80 million people-ish in Germany, 60 million in the UK, 20, 30 million in countries like Italy and France. So you're into hundreds of millions of people that are available to sell your products to. But the interesting thing about Europe is that it's kind of like in the US, we have all these different states. In Europe, we have all these different countries within the landmass. So if you're, say, in Germany selling, well, then somebody in Austria speaks German. They're going to go and buy their products from Amazon.de because that's the local market. Like here in Ireland, I'm from like a tiny little town in Ireland. We typically, we do have a .ie now, but before that, we would have only bought from .co.uk. So all of a sudden then you consider, well, we have these five main markets, new ones coming on board. Then we have all the surrounding countries all purchasing from those markets. You can actually see that from a population standpoint, it's actually a little bit bigger than .com from a population point of view. Now, of course, Rob, our US friends and Canadians, but US more so, they love buying stuff online, which is why we love them. They're great consumers. So the European market, it's not quite as big just yet in terms of total purchases, but it's growing all the time. And so for you listening now, if you're brand new, it's just important to know there is a big opportunity outside .com. Not to say that you shouldn't do .com. I would say it's in addition to .com. So a question I think you asked there as well was kind of well, if you're starting out, where do you consider? Where should you go? And typically, I always tell people, if you're in Europe, I would start in Europe. And the only reason for that is if I'm in the UK, I would start in the UK. And the interesting thing about Europe is, say, if you're in the UK, is we've got something called the EFN. So what's the EFN? It's the European Fulfillment Network. So for those of you who don't know, I'll explain basically what this means. So let's imagine that you have products that you're buying from, let's just say China, to keep it easy. You're shipping them over to Europe. The interesting thing is when you do that, you can send all your stock to, let's just say the UK. Now I know we have Brexit and everything, which will all get worked out. Let's just imagine it's not there for 1 second, just to keep it a little bit easier. But you can send things to one European country. Again, we'll imagine the UK. Amazon will hold it in stock in their warehouse in typically one warehouse. Sometimes it's two, it's oversized. So it's a lot simpler from that point of view. But the cool thing is you can then translate your listings into all those different languages, and you can hold your stock in one country and Amazon will ship it out to each individual customer on your behalf via the European Fulfillment Network, or the EFN. Now, it does cost a little bit more money to ship each different thing because you're paying a little extra to get to Germany, etc.
Sure.
It's a really cool way to get started. So typically, what our clients do is they'll send stock to, say, the UK, they'll send stock to .com, and all of a sudden now they can actually sell in 6 markets pretty quickly, relatively simply. And obviously we'll get into company structures and all on the call today, no problem. But in essence, that's what the opportunity is, to add millions of potential customers to your business. So it's pretty cool,
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I mean, I'm going to actually probably back you up even a smidge more. So I'm on Amazon UK. What can I expect, like paperwork wise, when I'm starting to fill out that, hey, I want to sell in the UK on Amazon? What kind of, being US based, what kind of paperwork am I going to need to have ready? Is that something you guys help with? Kind of what to expect when I kind of get that ready before we jump in to start shipping my stuff over.
Yeah, sure. So there's a few things on that are important to consider. The first thing is that if you want to, this is not necessarily wrong, but it is kind of wrong in that you could sell in Europe with your US LLC, for example. Let's say you have an LLC, and then you can utilize all your US LLC information when you're setting up a .co.uk account. Everything that you would use, proof of address, etc., can all be utilized to get going. The kind of challenge there, though, is that if you do sell in Europe with a non-European entity, the challenge comes in around VAT, which is tax, right? And the simple challenge is that you have to register straight away in the UK, which is normal. You do that anyway, and what I'm about to tell you to do. But the challenge here is that because you're non-European, you're holding stock in the UK, let's say someone from Germany buys something from you. Because you're a non-European entity, the minute somebody buys from Germany, even though your stock's in the UK, you technically have to register for German VAT. And then French VAT, if someone from France buys, on it goes.
So is that a double? Is that a double VAT? So
no, it's not.
So it's a single.
It's just that you would have to register in all these different countries.
Gotcha.
Which is, like in the US, right? The advice is to register in all the different taxes where you're selling things. Of course, not everybody does that, right? Whereas in Europe, it's a little bit different because it's very, very cut and dry. The rules are, it's not quite as vague in some ways, like I would say. So then the challenge is people say, well, then what do I do? Well, what we typically see people do is they'll set up like a European entity, so like a a UK limited company, for example. So you have your US LLC in the US. That's trading in the US.
Yeah.
European entity now, which is UK.
How hard is that to do? How hard is it to set up an entity in the UK?
And the entity is very easy, actually. Okay. It's really, really simple. I mean, it's literally can be done in, a day. It's not hard to do. And then also you can get like a payments account from Payoneer, from Fire, etc. You can utilize that as kind of like your quote unquote bank. Associated with that. So that's kind of that. And then obviously there's the paperwork you're asked for from Amazon, you would get from having set up a UK limited company, etc. Sure. Now, so that what I would say is one of the biggest things I see people do that are not from Europe, and it's a real benefit because when you have a UK limited company or any European entity, you won't run into the issue of having to set up VAT in each different country every time you make a sale. You will set up for VAT, for example, in the UK because you, the owner of the company, are not from Europe. Right? Yeah. But you won't have to do it in every single country. So that's a kind of a benefit. Down the line, whenever you hit over certain, selling thresholds, you'll start to register in each different country then. But really, that's down the line for most people. It's not going to happen, straight away. And we do have connections that can help you with that kind of thing. There's also companies like Avalara in Europe as well who they take care of VAT and stuff like that. So there's loads of resources out there. I mean, it's kind of like anything. Like when you set up a company in the US, even people have a lot of fears around taxes and fears around all these things. Because I always tell people, like, you've got a small business, and every business starts pretty small. Like, you're not going to have huge taxes, because you're not going to be making tons of money just yet. So all of these things are going to be step up. They're going to step up as time goes on. And so I would say, like, I know I explained quite a bit there. It might sound a little bit complex, but essentially it's as simple as setting up a UK limited entity or a European limited entity, utilizing that to sell in Europe. And then what you can do is you can create an invoice from a US company, just charges some management fees or whatever to your UK company so you can start sending some money back that way. Again, I'm not an accountant. I'm not giving financial advice, but I would say that it is relatively simple. We do have advisors in the UK for anybody who needs help with that. It's no problem.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I think maybe after we're done with the podcast, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about getting maybe a blog article on how to set that up. And we'll put it up on the Feedback Wiz website. So that way there's some, reference material there so people can, go and kind of understand it a little better if they don't quite understand what you're going through right now. It doesn't sound that hard. I mean, it sounds pretty simple actually. Now, what about product? Like, let's say I've got, 50 products, 40 products. Is there ones that seem to do better, or is there a certain type that I might want to try first to kind of feel out the market? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, if you do have 40 or 50 products, congratulations.
I'm just an example.
But congratulations. Oh, I'm joking. But so the answer to that is it kind of depends, So what we typically do is we kind of do like a green lighting kind of thing where we would look at the European market and we would see, what's going on for this particular item. When we're researching items, we typically focus on .com simply because it's the most developed market, and we will typically find items in our way we do things that you can sell in any country. Like a good example of something that you may not be able to sell in any country is like a US flag, right? That could sell really well in the US. Maybe it doesn't sell quite as well in Europe. There's other things to consider as well. Like let's just say you're selling kind of like products that are powered in the US. Like they have a plug, for example. Yeah. That's going to be an issue for Europe, right? Because obviously in Europe, we don't have one, we have two different types of plugs. We have a UK plug and we have a continental European plug. And in just the way we teach, Rob, like personally, our students typically don't sell those kinds of products to begin with because they're complex, right? Yeah. So that's definitely a consideration. Other considerations would be like, let's say you're selling stationery type products, paper type products, different there's different paper sizes in Europe and around the US. So it's the kind of thing, like its localization is certainly one thing to look at. But if none of those things are an issue, typically, like I wouldn't say there's one particular category better than another. Pretty much similar to the US, just like there's certain things like barbecues, for example, huge in the US, right? Because it's a cultural thing. In Europe, not as huge in every single country, but still a very popular market. So I would say, like, really, it's quite similar. It's just like certain things like barbecues, etc., might do better in the US. But it would be hard for me to say this is definitely what you want to try. Like, go in the baby market for sure in Europe. What I do is I look at things a little bit differently, and I would say if you're selling in the US, hey, would you like some incremental profit, incremental sales, without having to do really any more huge work? And a lot of people say, well, yeah, that'll be great. I say, well, then great, take your products, get them in front of more customers in more countries. That's just a simple way to just add in these incremental sales. And we've seen clients, Rob, that like literally, they would have, we actually saw one client in the baby market, funnily enough, and they were doing well in the US, but actually when they brought their products to Europe, Spain went insane, and Spain is not a well-developed market just yet. It's growing, but this went crazy in Spain simply because the selection of baby products in that market was really poor. But I think if you're trying to tick boxes and try and check things to the nth degree, like it's hard. You're going to hold yourself back rather than just take your products, take your best-selling lines, look at what they're doing in Europe, check out where the BSRs are on average, and see where they are, and then just start sending some stuff over, because where you're really going to get your data, like always, is when you get the thing into stock, you get it optimized, you start running some PPC, and then you start getting some sales in,
Yeah. So, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of sounds like you're kind of recommending like research your products, make sure that the product's going to sort of fit. It's no guarantee it's going to be great over there or not, but do a little test run, right? Like try a few products out, understand the process, how things work over there. And then, like you said, even if it's not huge sales, any money's good money. I mean, that's the way I see it. So, that seems to be kind of where we're headed is why not look outside the US? I mean, people are always, I hear it a lot here in the US. People are like, oh, there's so many sellers on the Amazon marketplace for the US. Well, here you go. Right now, Steven's talking about a way for you to make some extra money, not too much work involved. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So what about maybe some misconceptions when getting started selling globally? What's things you hear that people say or do that maybe kind of
Sure.
you're just like, oh, come on.
Yeah. Well, typically it always revolves around VAT. I think people get really fixated on VAT because what people typically say is, oh my God, VAT rate is, on average 20%, right? Oh my God, it's so expensive. Like, I'm not going to be as profitable. But like, that's just not true because like what happens is everybody else in Europe has to pay the same VAT rates
Yep.
on behalf of the government. Therefore, like everyone has allowed for that in their pricing. So what you will find is typically items are a bit more expensive in Europe than they are in, say, the US because every state's different, but on average, a state's maybe 7% sales tax, something like that. So it's a bit more. So that's the first thing I would say is a very common thing.
Well, I'm going to jump in there. So just so people are aware, we're in the first quarter of 2020 right now. As of currently, our tariff rates are right around 25%. And they're not just 25%, they're 25% on top if you were already paying a tariff of say 5 to 7%, it's 25% more. Now, what Stephen's saying is that when you ship directly from China, directly to the UK, you're not paying those US tariffs. You're going directly to the UK and you're paying the VAT, which is kind of like a tariff, let's say, so just so people understand.
Yeah, you'll pay customs, right, which is maybe 5%, and then you'll pay the VAT on the order at 20%. But the thing is, the kind of difference here as well, and again, I don't want to get too into the weeds because it can get very complex, but just to say it very simply, like the thing about VAT is like you will pay VAT, but because you're VAT registered, you can claim that back again. So that's the thing. Like you will pay it, but you can claim it back when you're VAT registered. And also, whenever you're a VAT registered company, yes, you are collecting VAT on behalf of the government, and then you have this kind of like, well, I can minus off what I've collected versus what I've paid. I pay the balance of my VAT that I pay out, right? So there's that as well. Like it's kind of a little bit more complex, but that tariff is that's a flat tariff, so it's pretty simple to look at. It's just an extra cost right now doing business. I think that will change, though. I think that tariff will go away pretty soon because it's political, infighting. We'll see. I think it will go away, but at the same time, you're right. Like right now, that is in place. Something like that's not in place in Europe. So I don't know if it's a benefit or not, but it's certainly different anyway. That's for sure.
Yeah. Now, what about, we're going to have people obviously listening that either want to sell on Amazon, haven't started selling on Amazon. Do you recommend that this is something they look into kind of first, or should they get started on the US market or kind of try both? I mean, they've done all their research and everything, and they found a couple of products they want to try. What do you recommend or see?
Yeah, like I mean, I would recommend trying to get into as many markets as you can, but obviously, it's a function of affordability, etc. But I suppose the way I look at it is, if you were in your town right now, where you are, Rob, your city where you are right now, like how much do you think it would cost you roughly? We're not going to get this right. Roughly to like start a cafe where you live.
Oh, geez. Well, I'm in Silicon Valley, which is Northern California. It's expensive.
It's well over $100,000 anyway.
Oh yeah, well over $100,000. Yeah, for sure.
So I suppose you kind of have to look. We always call it the coffee shop reality, where like it's like $100,000 to start something like a coffee shop. Yeah, you sell lattes and you got staff and all these different expenses. So in comparison, starting an Amazon business, where you're selling on Amazon and maybe other marketplaces, but Amazon, you're selling globally, so you're opening up the world into your business. Kind of like if you compare it with, say, opening up like our coffee shop, it's very inexpensive. That's why we tell people, if you can, definitely go global straight away, because worst case scenario, your business doesn't go crazy. You shut down companies, it's game up, and that's it. Like it's not the end of the world. Obviously, we don't want to focus on that because we focus on succeeding. So, but the point entirely is that it's not all that expensive to do in comparison to a traditional business. A traditional business doesn't give you the global expansion that you can have here. But in answer to your question, I would say both. But if you're in a situation where you live in the US, listen to this, I would start in .com. Why not? It's there. If you decide you want to import it and bring it to your house and do the work yourself, you can do that. Can't do that in Europe. I would recommend outsourcing, and we started a freight company to help with that. Again, I'm not here to pitch it or anything. I'm just saying, like, whenever we were growing our businesses, when we didn't have any of this help, we had to try and find freight forwarders who could help us, who could repack things, or if something came in damaged, it would get done like that. So outsourcing is good because it opens you up then globally. So I would say do both, but I would say if you're in the US, start in the US. If you're in Europe, start in Europe. I mean, like these are big markets, but at the same time, I've seen a lot of people who, even in Europe, they'll be like, oh, I'll go to .com because that's where I should start. That's where everybody goes. And while that's true, there's a lot of purchasability in Europe. Just to give you an example, we have it on our YouTube channel actually. Is a US guy and him and his partner. They have a company called Leda Stationery, I think they're called.
Okay.
They're a good stationery company in the US, started in .com. They're now doing more sales in Europe now than the US, and simply because they brought their products over, So that's the thing. Like it's hard to predict, but I would get into as many countries as I can, and we call it like the rule of five. So just to explain what that means to anybody listening, if you imagine you have 5 products and you're selling them in 5 markets, you're making 5 sales per day per product per country. And you're making an average of $5 net profit, let's just say, to keep it all fives. 5 by 5 by 5 by 5.
Yep.
For a 30-day period, it's like $18,750 net profit in a month. And the reason you're able to get there was, obviously, it's an oversimplified example, but the point is, like, you have multiple markets, you have multiple products, you have a small number of sales in each market, and that can really compound. Whereas if you're only in .com, the only move you have available to you is more products, and then try to get those products making more sales. Yeah. My point is, like, you can expand out more horizontally, still grow your sales, but get into more countries and kind of plant flags down in more places. And we all know, like, when you build some good listing history within Amazon, it's great. Like, as long as you stay in stock, like, it really sticks. And so getting into more markets earlier is a really good strategy, I would say.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. So I want to just summarize a little. So people that let's say they've been selling about a year on Amazon. First thing they want to do is get onto Amazon UK, get an account set up, either using the current LLC or whatever corporation they are, or setting up an entity in the UK. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. And then what they could do once they've established that is they could go to somebody like you guys who are freight forwarding. You could help them basically bring their products over from China directly to the UK, get them into what we call here like fulfillment by Amazon. And they have, you called it something different over there, right? It's not fulfillment by.
It's still FBA. I just said is the EFN is the process of shipping, but it's still called FBA. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, but that allows you now to sell to the different, like Germany and France and Italy and things like that. So that would be kind of the first steps of getting this process going. I would say one of those steps in there is make sure you get a hold of Steven or Marketplace Superheroes, because it's like, Steven's sharing this information. And if you're not sure or miss something, I mean, I definitely would go that route. You're also talking about making sure you do some research, right? Understand the market that you're going to go into. Now, here's a question. Do you see, like, if you start listing, say, of the European countries, I mean, is England number one as far as kind of the consumers that buy most? And then where does it kind of go from there?
Sure. No, great question. And actually reminded me that another thing I wanted to point out about translations. So I would say right now, UK and Germany are like the 2 big markets. Like they're the leaders. And it's simply down to the fact they've got bigger populations, So they'd be the 2 main ones. Then I would say France would be number 3. Then I would say you're into Spain, then Italy. And then obviously, like, all these other countries are buying from those markets. So it's hard to say, like, I don't know where the hell Austria is, right? It's like it's part of Germany in terms of sales.
Sure.
But I would say UK and Germany. But the beautiful thing is, like, people will ask me, well, should I go to Germany first? And as I always say, well, you don't have to make that decision, because all you got to do is translate your listing. And because you're using a unified European account, like you have the unified North American account, the difference here is you can send all your stock to one country, whereas in North America, you got to send your stock to Canada, to the US, to Mexico. Here, you can just send it all to one place. And it's beautiful. Translate your listings. Translations are super cheap. They're not expensive whatsoever. They're a really good investment. And then you can, off you go, So, and the really good thing as well is that, like, in, say, US right now, like, and again, we don't typically sell overly competitive, crazy competitive items. Like, for example, we would never sell like supplements or something like that. Even though it's a
Yeah.
huge market, we would keep away from it because a lot of our members, they just wouldn't be at that level of business to be able to compete there. That's top level competition right there.
Yeah.
So we're talking about simpler items, in truth. But the thing I would say is, even if you're selling more competitive items, they'll be very competitive in .com right now. I've seen a lot of people have really great success by coming to Europe and selling the same items because they're not as competitive in Europe. So you're listing your keywords, things like that. Like when you get them translated, there's a methodology of like, you'll get back a translation. You can put your translation that you've received into, say, Google Translate into one site.
Yeah.
You grab then you take that you find your keyword then, because you'll see it literally. I don't speak German, but you can just like hover over. And you can see the correct keyword. You can then put that into, say, Amazon.de, and you can see all the best selling items then that have that keyword in there. And then you can start to see, oh, well, what are these other keywords they've got? Translate those in Google Translate. And from there, you literally can cobble together, translations if you wanted to do it on the cheap. Obviously, there's lots of tools and software out there that are Europe, like Feedback Wiz is obviously in Europe as well.
Yep.
I have more tools coming on to help with that. But even a simple level, what I just said, will get you most of the way there right now with your listing keywords in Europe, because it's just not as competitive as .com. I still think, by the way, like we still have members launching in .com all the time and doing really well. It's just like you've just got to be a lot more niche down in .com than you're in Europe right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually give a recommendation too, because I've had to do translations for our software. And I ended up going to Fiverr, ended up hiring some people on Fiverr to do the translations. I think we had to translate to something like 7 or 8 different languages. And then what I've done is I took the translation, because you never know, are you getting a correct translation, or are they just using a piece of software, or are they actually doing it? So then what I did is I took my translations, I got on LinkedIn and some people I was already connected with, and I said, hey, would you do me a favor? I said, would you take a look at this? It's, it wasn't too many words, and just kind of read over it, just make sure it looks correct. And if it isn't, I'm not asking you to correct it. I'll go back and make the people that I paid correct it. And that was one way I did it that kind of definitely gave me a reassurance that the things I was translating were done at least 99% right,
That's great. And one thing we did, and again, I'm not here to pitch what we do. I'm here just to,
it's all right.
But just to say, like, one thing we've done is we've built this ecosystem, right? It's different than what Feedback Wiz would do. Our software tools are a little bit more like helping people manage their importing and stuff like that. But one thing we did do is we've included things like, product photography, translations. So in our world, when you get an ecosystem account, you can we can translate your listings for you. We have a team of translators who we've trained up in this area to do it, and still not that expensive. But the point I was trying to make was just, if you didn't have that, you can still get it done. But I think your strategy there is really solid, because you're getting a double check. And like things like Fiverr are great for, but I think if you're getting into like specific keywords, it's always good to have someone who like understands what you're trying to do, understands that's going on to Amazon, because that is really important, rather than just, okay, this makes sense, but then, well, people find it, that's the next thing. So our ecosystem, our translators are really good at that kind of thing, but there's lots of good services out there as well.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is a very untapped market. I mean, at least for US sellers, I mean, it just feels to me like it's a natural, right? Why would you not sell over there and make a few extra dollars, and with the potential of making a lot, I'm curious, Stephen, before you even got into the whole marketplace superheroes and Amazon world, what'd you do prior to this?
Yeah. Well, so I'm 32 now, so this is like basically 10 years ago. I was working as a data processor, super boring job, as I'm sure you can imagine, where I was literally just typing information from forms into a computer all day. And I really wanted to get into business and have a company and all that, but I literally had no clue how to do it, other than when I was a kid, I was into music, so I'd arrange gigs and all of that. And I was good at all that. But I mean, there's a big difference, as you know, between like making some money and then enough that you can support your life.
Absolutely.
So I was searching online from about maybe 18, 19 to 20, 23. So 4 or 5 years, really trying to find how to start online, how to get into it. Search the whole how to make money online thing, and we all know you find a lot of crap when you do that, and really just didn't know where to go. Luckily, I met this guy called Robert, still my business partner to this day. And he was selling on Amazon. He was selling on eBay, kind of like yourself. Some of the story you were telling me you used to do. He would sell even wholesale products as well and stuff like that.
Sure.
So I basically went up to him, and my aunt introduced me to him and just sort of said, look, this is Robert, this is what he does. I just fell in love with the whole idea of selling real things to real people and seeing this warehouse and real products in there. And then I just basically quit my job and started working with Robert for free for like 9 months, trying to learn everything I could. And essentially at the time he had 2 warehouses, lots of staff, very stressful, weren't really using FBA, doing their fulfillment themselves. And him and I just kind of looked at it and said, there's a better way to do this here. We can sell we can sell products globally. He was selling kind of consumer electronics accessories products like TV stands, things like that were really, really saturated. Still are, like obviously we still sell a lot, but they're hard to get into. Yeah. So we had to make a big change. And so we really did a lot of like, well, what kinds of products could we sell? And basically he closed down that company with all the warehouses and staff. We restarted, brought in completely new product lines in all different categories. And within, a year, a little bit over a year maybe, we were doing about, I'm going to say dollars, but 1.3 million-ish per year. And there's only 2 in the business, so, we're making about 30% of that a year net profit-ish. Obviously, we weren't pocketing it all. But, it was a nice, profitable business. Sure. And then we just said, look, we could do this for a long time, or, we could actually, start helping other people. Like people like I was completely lost. And we said, well, look, we can never sell all the millions of products that are out there. So we might as well teach what we've learned. And that's what we did. We started Marketplace Superheroes like about 4 or 5 years ago now. Yeah. And I suppose the big thing for us going forward, Rob, is like, we didn't want to just be people just teaching this. We actually wanted to kind of get into trenches with our clients too. And that's why we've used all our resources to start, say, Superhero Freight, so we can help our members ship in, more cost effectively. We've built our software ecosystem so people can get their product photography done and all of these things really easily. So that's our thing. Like if we can partner with our clients long term, great. Because if you guys succeed with the education, you're going to use our services. So it's a nice kind of partnership. Kind of like with Feedback was like, you guys can't exist unless people are succeeding. So it's in your interest to do things like this to help people to be more successful. I just think that's important, just to like have a real clear, transparent, this is what we do. We're in the trenches with you. We're not just like selling you something and then running away. So that's pretty much the whole story of how I got into it all.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, anybody in the UK listening to this, Feedback Wiz does provide our platform to all the UK marketplaces. So we're in pretty much almost every marketplace out there. So, that you were even asking, you're like, hey, do you guys cover the European marketplace? I'm like, that tells me we need to make sure that people understand that we do. But I want to focus a little on Marketplace Superheroes. So let's go over the different services you asked. You don't need to go too detailed, but just so people know when if they're going to contact you or look at marketplacesuperheroes.com, what services are offered on there that they could, maybe take advantage of.
Yeah, sure. Well, on marketplacesuperheroes.com, you're pretty much just going to see like our Amazon-orientated training. But we have other stuff that we do. It's kind of like right now it's for members only, but it will change this year. Actually, or it'll be available to outside members. So we have things Superhero Freight. It's our freight company where we have an online app where you can basically book in your Chinese shipments. We'll save you a bunch of money because we'll put your shipment as well as our other members onto containers that we run and we operate. So we save you a ton of money. We actually allow people to prepay their shipping rather than, you ship it in, you get this huge bill then that you didn't expect. You know how much you're paying for your shipping straight away. So that's one thing we do. Again, that will be at superherofreight.com in the new year. But right now, there's not a whole lot on there because it's really members only. But we have Superhero Office as well then. So that's we help you get set up in the UK with a company. We can do your accounting as well, things like that. We have a great partner who helps us with that. And on from that, then Marketplace Superheroes offers lots of different coaching and stuff like that, if that's something you want. Our main kind of teaching program will kind of teaches our strategy around finding products, types of items we sell, how we sell them globally, that kind of thing. So, I would start at marketplacesuperheroes.com, check out the free stuff there. If you want to go further, great. If not, no problem. You can always hit up our support if you just want to say get access to the freight, etc. And we'll help you as best we possibly can. And we have a whole software thing, but that'll take me forever to get into. But it's
no, I understand.
It's very much just like get your product photography done, get your translations done. It's kind of like in the trenches stuff you need as you go forward. But yeah, we do a lot now.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw out there. So anybody who's listening to this, if you end up listening to this podcast and Steven helped you out and you got over to Europe, you started selling there. If you end up in Ireland, you got to buy him a pint of beer, that is. So
I will never say no to that.
That's absolutely correct. And next time I'm over there, I'm definitely going to take you out and get a beer up myself. Well, thanks, Steven. Again, Steven Summers with Marketplace Superheroes.
Yep.
And he also has a Facebook group called Amazon Superheroes. So you can always subscribe to his group or get on his group and ask questions through there. Steven, I really appreciate you being on the Ecom Wiz podcast. And thanks for sharing the great information.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And also, I know what it's like to create content, so I appreciate your effort and time putting this together. And I don't take it lightly that we get the opportunity to speak to your subscribers. So thank you, and I hope to help Feedback Wiz any way I can going forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Be sure to check out Marketplace Superheroes and, of course, Feedback.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and for more information, please visit feedbackwiz.com.